Hello. I'm doing a little live test here. Checking out the river here by my house, seeing how the live stream works from this far away. Can you guys hear the river? So, looks like I lost my phone. So I will have to check the live stream over here. See if anybody's here in the chat. So I will have to check. Well, that's interesting. I think it's going to work. Well, let's see. Well, hello, everybody. How's it going out there in YouTube land? It's nice to be here. And it's particularly nice to be here because it's the first day of a new year. Happy New Year. And you know what? A lot of people can get into a lot of situations in a year. I know last year was pretty rough. And I think I'm going to give everybody a little help for this year. I'm going to give you a free pass. Give you a free pass to get through any rough spots of the year. And it's going to be a very manly free pass. It will be a manly P hall pass. In particular, let's see, I have The Ways of the Lonely Ones by Manly P. Hall. I thought I might read a little bit from this book. I heard it was very good. The Ways of the Lonely Ones, a collection of mystical allegories by Manly Palmer Hall, illustrated by J. Augustus Knapp. 5th Revised Edition. Philosophical Research Society, 3341 Griffith Park Boulevard, Los Angeles 27, California, 1945. Copyright 1922, 1925, 1934, and 1945 by Manly Palmer Hall. For permission to copy or translate, address the author. Dedication. To that band of silent workers, known in this world as the Lords of Compassion and the Brothers of the Shining Robe, who labor eternally with the children of men in the name of the Great Father. This volume is dedicated by the author that it may bear witness to the spiritual truths which they serve. List of illustrations, facing page. The hand of the youthful hunter is stayed, page 16. The shining figure spread its wings and soared upward toward the light. Facing page 42. 42. Raising the hem of the flowing garment, the aged man reverently kissed it. Facing page 55. From the ancient lamp streamed rays, many colors. Facing page 77. The master stood bathed in the light of the divine presence. Facing page 84. And finally, between the wings of the kneeling cherubim appeared the flaming presence of Jehovah. Facing page 96. I'm just going to recap. Today is the Happy New Year day, and this right here is your Manly P Hall Pass, your Manly Palmer Hall Pass for this new year. My battery is very low and may die soon, but I'm going to start reading this book, and I will continue it after I get cut off. Hopefully, I'll get some power juice out here, plug in. This was just a test, but it's such a beautiful day. I thought I might read a little bit of this book. I've been dying to dig into it. So the table of contents, Nature's Homage, page 11. The Maker of the Gods, page 34. The Master of the Blue Cape, page 43. The Face of Christ, page 55. The Guardian of the Light, page 67. The One Who Turned Back, page 84. The Glory of the Lord, page 95. The Last of the Shamans, The Last of the Shamans, page 107. Page 8, Introduction. This life is not merely what it seems to be. Hidden from our eyes by the cloak of materiality is a wonderful world which only the eyes of the dreamer can see and the soul of the mystic comprehend. The stony walls of conventionalized thought and commercialized ideas shut from the view life's noble path. But as the ages pass, some see the greatness of the divine plan and comprehend the glorious destiny of the human soul. Sorrow, suffering, and loneliness are the great builders of character. Man never becomes truly great until his heart is broken. That is the supreme test. Those who are deepened and broadened by their experiences rise triumphant from the ruins of their dreams and pass on to fuller destiny. There are theories which appeal to the reason, and there are truths which the mind can never know. Through the ages, the emotion and intellect have struggled with each other for dominion over the soul, and man has foolishly allowed his servants to become his masters. Religion is not merely intellectual, although it must be logical and reasonable. Religion, in order to unfold the spiritual nature, must be enshrined within the heart. Every individual who comes into the world is a lonely one, a stranger in a strange land. At birth, he begins a search which continues until he is laid away in death, and probably afterwards. Few can define the object they seek. If they only realize one thing, the quest would be ended. Each searches for himself. We live in a world of shadows. These phantoms are our not selves. But most of us mistake them for the real self. Only ages of sorrow and suffering can bring that discrimination, which shows us what is really worthwhile and develops that determination which strengthens us for the attainment of the greater good. Page 11, Nature's Homage. With the absorbing power of quicksilver, civilization dissolves into itself the wild places of the earth. Where great forests once stood, gloomy buildings with high angular chimneys now darken narrow cobbled ways. Natural grandeur has been swallowed up in the sordidness of human construction. Here and there, however, spots may yet be found where man has not intruded, where the sound of axe, the cries of woodmen, and the rumbling of logs have not broken the primeval stillness. One by one, the savage denizens of the world, one by one, the savage denizens of the wild, the beasts untamed, have retreated into these scarce trodden fastnesses before the deadly onslaught of civilization. From lonely crag and primeval wilderness, they gaze out with furtive eyes and watch the relentless advance of that dread power which would destroy their lives. In a certain land, there is a majestic mountain range which lifts its towering peaks above rough and densely wooded sides, like great supplicating arms to the skies. From out the verdant luxuriance of trees and shrubs, mightily straggling monarchs of the forest toss high their branches as though to grasp in their trembling fingers the clouds that hover over them. A narrow trail, barely a footpath, winds up to these mountains. Here and there, it leads over loose rocks and broken boulders, or from stone to stone across some waterfall that descends like a stream of crystal from the snow-covered peaks far above. In a wood there is no silence, for there is ever a rippling, ever a swishing, ever a sighing. As from the mountainsides trickle numberless streams, or through the treetops the wind whispers its message to any listening ear. Up this narrow path climbs an occasional hunter, for the fleet-footed deer still peer shyly out of the thickets, springing from rock to rock or darting among the scrub growth that clothes the precipitous slopes on either hand. Here too the mountain lion lurks, and at night its shining eyes gaze out from the darkness at the campfire of the hunter. Here also the wolf and fox abound, and in the lower valleys prowls the jackal, yapping an incessant protest as the shades of evening gather. Perhaps an awkward bear crosses the path and waddles along on his short, ungangly legs. It is the paradise of the sportsman who slays to prove the merit of his aim. Many stories are told of these mountains, many legends fashioned by the minds of ancient dreamers and perpetuated by their descendants. But strangest of all is the story of the old man of the mountain. Somewhere in the fastness of these hills, so the story goes, lived a hermit who had dwelt there for many years, as far back as the oldest hunters could remember. The story was told of how one tired of the world and its shams had crept away from the haunts of men to make his domicile among the crags of these mountains, whose lofty peaks seemed to touch the sky. Once in a great while, someone saw him far off in the distance. As motionless, he stood on the shore of some mountain lake or walked slowly along the brow of some barren hill, silhouetted against the sky. He was known as the old man of the mountain, the hermit of the mighty peaks. Some said he was good. Some said he was strange and cruel. But all loved to tell of him, to indulge in the vagaries of conjecture and speculation. Once in the course of human events, there climbed the winding, rugged mountain path a whistling youth, a strong bow in his hand and a quiver of feathered arrows and a pack upon his back. He was going into the hills to hunt. With the enthusiasm of youth, he would slay mountain lion, bear, and deer, not to mention the wolves, whose howling he had heard from the valley below. Hours went by as the hunter persistently followed the tortuous path. The gloom of evening fell, and still he was far distant from the crest of the lofty hill where the little scrub pines appeared in the relief against the ever-present cap of snow. The chill of the mountain air was in the air. The valley below was long since dark, and tiny twinkling lights revealed the abodes of men. The glow of the dying day still lingered on the mountain peak. As the youth stood there in the twilight, he was startled by the sound of breaking twigs and swishing branches, caused by the passage of some unseen creature in the thicket. Looking quickly around, he saw standing behind him a mighty stag, whose great arched antlers had spread of many feet, and whose noble head was raised to catch the slightest warning sound. Two large, mild eyes gazed at the youth, who, with the frenzy of the hunter, hurriedly raised his bow, aimed, and barbed shaft at the heart of the stag, and with the utmost precision drew it to its head. Just as he was about to release the deadly shaft, a detaining hand was laid upon his arm. The youth stirred. The youth started. The bow slipped from his nervous fingers, and he turned in surprise to look into the face of a strange being. As he turned, his amazement grew, for such a figure few men have seen. The face bore the marks of great age, and the snowy locks were wider far than the mountaintops, which had existed since the beginning. The figure was that of an old man draped from head to foot in a cowl of gray cloth. In his hand he carried a great wooden staff cut from the limb of a dead tree. His eyes, however, were the wonder of the picture. Two kindly twinkling eyes that had registered even the faintest shade of emotion. One moment gleaming with the joy of life, of youth. The next dimmed by the tears of sorrow, gazed into the face of the hunter. The hermit laid one hand lightly upon his shoulder, and he kindly face held only soft rebuke. You, began the youth. Are you not the old man of the mountain? The stranger nodded his head, and a voice, mellowed by the years of goodness, answered softly and kindly. Yes, I am the hermit who lives on these hills. But why do you shoot at my stag? Your stag? Exclaimed the boy hunter. How comes it that you own the beast? In this world, the other answered, proper use is the sole warrant for ownership, and those who use God's creatures well have the first claim upon them. The old man held out his hand to the stag, and the beast, though viewing the hunters askance, came slowly across the little clearing and rubbed its nose against the friendly hand. Putting his arm around the neck of the stag, the hermit spoke to it in soft musical tones. Just a few sighing sounds and the old man made, but the animal seemed to understand. Its soft nose was turned upward, and its eyes looked at him with a tenderness of expression which moved even the hunter. The hermit turned to the youth. Do you still dispute my ownership? He asked. Do you still doubt that he is mine and I am his? If you have just popped in, we are reading The Ways of the Lonely Ones by Manly Palmer Hall. This is your Manly P. Hall pass. And Happy New Year. And by the way, I'm at 2%, so I will continue until this computer thingy dies. We are on page 16. Now we're on page 17. What were the words you used? Asked the youth in surprise. How did you talk to him? I spoke in the words of the forest and in the trees. I spoke in the words of the forest and the trees, he answered. That is his language. He hears the voice of fear in the crackling of the twigs and the stealthy footsteps of the hunter. He hears life and love in the voice of the waterfall and soft swaying of leafy branches. These are the sounds of his language. And during these many years in the mountain, I have learned to talk with the tongue of the beast and the bird. Yes, I have even learned to talk with the trees and the flowers, who hear my voice and shelter me with their love and protection. Listen. In the chill of winter, you have come into these hills as the spirit of man often comes into this world to hate and to slay. Not that you really hate. Inwardly, you do not loathe the beasts, but to you their souls mean no more than a drop of water from yonder stream. But I have learned to look with love upon even the drops of water, for each one has its message. I have lived up here so long that the trees and the birds and flowers are one with me in spirit. I love them all, and they truly love me. Come, young hunter, lay your bow aside for a while.